A new hero is upon us in Nigerian sports, and in this video we have someone in the sports industry to preview and to project what could possibly be in Nigerian sports for the next 4 years. My name is Ayomide Shotobo, and this is the Nutmeg on Guardian TV. Welcome to the Nutmeg, Deji Omotoyinbo. Thank you for being a part of this show. It's a new era in Nigerian sport, just as it is in the country. Before we start discussions about the next sports phase in Nigeria under the new leadership, what have you made of Sunday Dare's administration as sports minister in the last 4 years?
I'll say hits and misses. How do I mean? I think they got some things right, or at least they're towing the right path in some areas. And in some areas, I don't think they did enough, or let me say the right thing. A lot of disruptions in the sporting sphere. Basketball, there are lots of disruptions. I think the minister got involved in some of those situations a bit too deeply. The Basketball Athletics Federation of Nigeria had issues at the Olympics. Basketball, there were issues that led to the Nigerian women's team, the Tigers that qualified for the World Cup, not being able to go for the World Cup because we shot ourselves in the foot by pulling out and all of that. And if you know the effort and what it means to a young player's career to qualify for a World Cup and not go, I think that was a big miss for us. But having said that, I also felt that the administration was a bit too into football, and that tends to be a recurring decimal in our sports. Our administrators tend to, yes, football is the most popular sport in the country, but there are so many other areas where we can excel without having to focus too much on football. And there was a time there was a back and forth between himself and the NFF board and all of that. I think our ministers tend to give undue or tend to pay too much attention, let me put it that way, to football to the detriment of other sports, even budget-wise. You hardly ever find out that football, there's no money to attend tournaments. But you find out that there are so many other sports where they can't attend qualifiers, they can't attend games, they can't travel to places because there's no funding. That hardly ever happens in football, and I think that's unfair on those other sports. Because the way I like to look at sports is that a sports ministry in any country should create an enabling environment where any child talented in any sport, be it boxing, be it swimming, be it cricket, be it football, be it basketball, not only football, any child talented in any sport available in that country is given a chance to excel to the highest level by the authorities in terms of infrastructure, in terms of coaching, in terms of developmental initiatives put in place. But you find out that in Nigeria, it's always a bit about football. I understand that football, you probably don't, you just in an open space. But it's the job of the ministry in any country to make sure that any child talented in any sport has a chance to excel.
It's an obvious problem, just as you've rightly stated, but what workable solutions are we looking at to, marrying football, king of all sports, just with other sports in Nigeria to make every child, as you mentioned, talented in every other sport, get that kind of limelight as well?
I actually feel that a sports ministry or minister should focus more on the lesser sports. Football is already developed. There are already developmental paths in place for a young footballer. There are lots of academies. There are lots of football clubs. There's a league going on. So football already has its structures in place. But a lot of the other sports, the so-called lesser or weaker sports, is what you should focus on to give them a fair and level playing field, to give them an opportunity. That's what I feel the job of a sport. Not focus on the popular sport that's already developed or established. Bring up the lesser sports, let them be up to par. Because you never know which talent or where the next big talent in any sport would come from. My theory is that the reason for that is most of the time we appoint people who are not sports industry people, if I can put it like that, who are So somebody who's just a sport lover, not immersed in the sports industry, would likely be a football fan.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Because football is the most popular sport. So the tendency is that that person will stick to what he or she knows better, which is football. And most of the time, if you are not versed in the other sports, you probably don't even know what's going on there. And football gives you the quote unquote a game. If it's a politician or a political appointment, football gives you that popularity. That's why they tend to focus more on football. I feel if you are to appoint somebody who has sports industry background, probably somebody who even played a particular sport like cricket at another level, at a high level, the tendency is they will be more balanced in their view and in their way of handling things across board. And I feel that it's a problem because if you talk to 10 men or 10 sports lovers, don't let me say men, 10 sports lovers, 8 or 9 will be football lovers. Maybe you find 1 or 2 that'll be basketball. So football is a popular sport, but we shouldn't now continue to create an environment where football continues to dominate the other sports in terms of funding, in terms of developmental initiatives and all of that. Football can pretty much, football can pretty much fund itself. That's my view, because it's popular enough.
Okay, interesting. Also, you did mention in your comment the structures already in place for football, but then in terms of sports generally, there's a new era just upon us. What pillars of success do you think they must now put forward to make sure that, you know, it's not just football, it's well-rounded sports for every Nigerians to enjoy?
I think one of the major problems we have in sports, as far as the other sports is concerned, even football to a large extent, is a lack of infrastructure. There is a huge shortage of sporting infrastructure across the country. Quality sporting infrastructure. Even the football that we talked about, CAF released the list of stadia that are approved for qualifiers, and it was just one in the entire country. Just one football stadium, which means that even the ones that are existing, there's no quality. I honestly feel that you have a sports policy that ensures that every child in any corner of the country has access to basic sporting facilities. What do I mean? Maybe a sports center in every locality that has, there are multi-purpose courts now. Absolutely. That can have tennis, basketball, volleyball, squash, about 4 or 5 sports that can
even
take
indoor
place
games
on a particular court.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can have football. Most countries, most schools in the country have football fields anyway. So football infrastructure is basic. Some of the other sports need a bit of specialized infrastructure, like a court for tennis, like a court for basketball, like the hoops, like the net, like the racket, like a bat for cricket. So a lot of the other sports need peculiar attention. But what we're doing when we pay attention to football is that it's not everybody that will be talented in football. Somebody who is useless in football might be fantastic in another sport. But if the basic facilities for that sport, if that child is not introduced to that sport, hey, you're never going to find out. So there's a need to improve infrastructure, put basic sporting infrastructure across the country. Another area we're not looking at is the power of sports to turn kids away from vices, crime, or any other thing. With all due respect to entertainment industry, you need a lot of talent, you need a lot of determination, but with all due respect, not trying to be disrespectful, discipline might not be what you need in that. It's fair. But for sports, you need a lot of discipline.
It teaches you hard work, consistency, dedication, all
those
things.
Sports teaches great values. Discipline, dedication, consistency, timeliness, respect for your opponent, focus. You have to, you acquire life skills that even if you don't become a professional sportsman, you can apply these skills in any area of your life. Sport teaches that. And I think it's about time incoming sports minister realized the power of sports to harness the power of young people, to capture and arrest young people and drive them towards positive pursuits away from vices and negative pursuits.
You made reference to leadership. It's a big factor in all of these things. If we're going to achieve even half of them. But just to ask you also, would you consider, or what would you consider the right profile of the kind of leader to fill the vacuum of sports minister for the next 4 years, looking at the rising challenges in the area in Nigeria at the moment?
Well, I've always felt like that, but without wanting to sound like you only want jobs for your industry people. I mean, you won't put a lawyer to handle the Ministry of Health and vice versa. I think for too long, we have a situation where sports is not seen by the powers that be as a professional industry. It's seen as a recreational industry, and most of the time, maybe they are having a cabinet, maybe the youngest people, they feel, okay, you are still young, you can handle sports. I think we've gone beyond that.
Yeah.
Loving sports and being a technocrat in the sports industry are two different things. I think we need to get to that point where we believe that you can just appoint somebody a minister because he has a love of sports, or he has a football club, or he has to be somebody, for me, or rather somebody who makes his or her living in the sports industry. That means the person probably knows where the shoe pinches, probably knows where the landmines are. It's not somebody that will come into the industry and then he's being led by people who might have, unfortunately, I have to be honest, the sports industry is full of all kinds of cliques. Mm-hmm. And in Nigeria, all kinds of cliques. So if you're a minister, you don't know much about sport, and you fall into the wrong hands, quote and unquote, they're going to lead you astray. They're going to lead you down the path that suits them and not the industry as a whole. We need somebody who can look at the entire sports industry and know that we need to build from the bottom to the top and not concentrate on the top to the detriment of the bottom of the ladder. School sports, which we've tended to ignore, and that was the crux of our success in the past.
Yes,
school sports. Absolutely. And then let kids know there's a synergy between sports and education. Because you want to become a sportsman doesn't mean you should abandon education.
Yeah.
And because you are educationally minded doesn't mean you cannot take part in sports. Because I think we have separated the two now. And I think it's wrong. We are losing out on a lot of things. A lot of kids in universities and all will tell you they can't do sport because university authorities don't create room for them to be able to manage sports and their lectures and their education. And vice versa. A lot of young people feel the only way they can take part in sports is they don't go to school at all. I don't agree to that. We are not at that level where we can separate the two. You can marry the two. Authorities in schools should give a bit of a leeway to talented sportsmen. I don't hear anything about sports scholarships in our universities for talented sportsmen to be able to thrive. So a lot of policies have to be put in place. Yes, the sports industry policy is a good thing, but how are you going to harness that? But I'm a bit more concerned about the lower rung of the ladder. That's where we have a lot of young, talented people that we might lose out on because they don't have access to basic sporting facilities. So I'm very, very concerned about provision of basic sporting facilities at the grassroots level for our sports. I think the lesser sports in this country need much more attention. And I want a sports minister to come in to pay more attention to that at the grassroots level, at the school sports level, rather than the established sports and fighting in basketball and wrangling with NFF chairmen. I don't think we need that. Okay. And leave those sports to continue to thrive and grow. Give them the room to thrive and grow. Focus on the lower rung of the ladder.
And that's how we wrap up this edition of The Nutmeg. You can join the community as always by hitting the subscribe button and let us know your thoughts in the comment section about Nigerian sports in the next 4 years, in the past 4 years, and also what you think needs adjustment. Also get our latest videos by tapping the notification buttons, and of course we have the very best of content both at home and abroad for you. My name is Deji Omotoyinbo and this is The Nutmeg on Guardian TV.